Hey everybody, this is just a really quick video I wanted to make. The purpose of making this video will be for future reference so I can point people with a link to this information in case in the future I have questions or people have heard things or whatever and they want to know a quick video. They want to have a quick video that shows them the truth. A lot of my work is based on images that I have found in cathedrals, images that I've found in geography, and these all relate to the Orion Nebula. I don't want to address all of the other data in this particular video that backs everything up as far as information and data goes. The only thing I want to do with this video is address the process that I go through in order to get or come to the conclusions that I do. So, you hear a term people say a lot of times, well, that person photoshops his images. That is a very ambiguous term because if you take any kind of an image at all, it doesn't matter what it is, as soon as I change one thing to it, which means I could add my copyright name at the bottom of the image, and somebody could say that was photoshopped, and no one would know the difference unless they understood the clear particulars of what that person was saying. So what happens in the outcome is that people use the term Photoshop all the time. Oh, that was photoshopped. Well, if you're trying to show a diagram between images, it's always going to be photoshopped in that sense. The real term behind the word Photoshop in a negative sense means that somebody has altered the original image in as far as its aspect ratio, the lines, and so forth from its original imagery in order to make it work with something. And I want to make it very clear I do not do that with my images. And I'm going to show you a few examples. First of all, let's take a look at the Michelangelo creation of Adam image. And I'm going to show you the process that I go through. As an analyst, it's important that I show this kind of stuff and I show it to you so that you can see that I don't, quote, Photoshop my images. So what I do is I take the original image that you see right here. Nothing has been changed with this image here. This is the same image that we see when we take a look at Michelangelo's creation of Adam. We can zoom in on this image. We can see it's the same. The aspect ratio is the same and everything. And I do welcome or encourage people to go out and check against the original to make sure that I'm indeed saying the truth here. So this is the original one. And over here we have the original version of the Orion Nebula. Okay. Now the process that I go through is I take the original of this image and then I copy it 3 times. 1, 2. Actually on the last one I don't even put it there because I'm showing the Orion Nebula 100% here, so I don't need to copy it on this one. So then I take the Orion Nebula and I copy it here and I copy it here and I put it here. In these two cases, what I do is I adjust its transparency so that here it's just barely visible and here it's much more visible, but here it's 100% visible. And the same thing occurs with this image. It's 100% here, it's less than 100% here, and it's much less than 100% here. So what this does is it allows me to show the original images in 4 places where the only thing that has changed is the transparency of them. Now what this does for a person is it allows them to use their eyes, once this is done, to scan through in a straight line of these and take a look at repeated instances of a particular shape or fractal or area of the image. Now what I do in these versions that you see down here is I do that exact thing. I show, for example, a smaller section once these two are lined up. And by the way, the only thing that is adjusted for this to be aligned with this are the original sizes changed where the aspect ratios remain the same. The only thing that happens is, if you're going out there and you want to find two images and you want to show that they are aligned together, you may find an original of one that's, say, 2000 by 1600, and say the other one is 5.5 times more than that. So the only way that you can make the two line up is you have to adjust one of the sizes of those images, and I try to find the highest resolutions that I can, and you adjust the size, keeping the aspect ratio the same until both the images line up. So that means you retain your original image of each. If you were to change the aspect ratio, that means stretch or pull or any direction like that, then that would be considered a bona fide Photoshop, but that's not what I do. I take the original images, and the only thing that is being done here is the transparency is being changed. Because what it allows you to do is exactly what you see right here. Because now if I take a section of that, it makes it very easy for the eye to see. So I cut out a picture here that you see right here, a zoom in area. And then I cut out that exact same area in all four of these, and then I put them together and I zoom in on them. Now what you can see, it obviously allows your eye to see things in a much easier sense, and I do this in several areas all over the image. So in every one of these cases, none of the originals have been changed in any way. What's happened is these two middle images that you see right here have the transparency of these images, which are on the ends, changed to show the transition. So that way you can follow your eye all the way through here in each case, and you can see she is the same as what we're taking a look at right here. And the reason why is because your eye can see the face and the facial recognition and its features and its size all the way through, including, for example, things like the arm that passes by her head. You can also see that in every one of these images as well. So that is what I do. Now there are other things that I do. This has not been changed in any way. This brain right here is an original MRI of a brain. And this is the original image of the Orion Nebula. And in this case, the transparency of the brain is set that we can see both the Orion Nebula and the brain at the same time. And then I zoom in and I perform the same operation that I showed you before. I also do this on, I zoomed in, for example, on God's head. This is also the same process. But the purpose of this is to show, for example, if we were looking at the United States and we wanted to show that some other image that we saw out there was a copy of the United States, we would perform the same process. The first thing that we would do would we would be looking at the overall image of the United States, and then to further prove that we're indeed looking at the United States, we would then begin to zoom in on the states and the shapes of those states and the shapes of those cities and the shapes of those towns and those cities, and we would keep zooming in and finding the similarities between these images from the very largest zoomed out to the most detail that we can find zoomed in. The purpose of doing that is at each stage, for example, as you can see right here, the ear that you see that's copied all the way through, that is a very small area that you see on this whole image. On this whole thing, very, very small. So if we've already taken a look at the overall structure and we found her, we found the arm, we found all these various other areas, and then we continue and we zoom in all the way on his ear and we see the same kind of fractal shapes repeated, that increases your probability and shape recognition by bounds. In fact, in this case, it makes it impossible that this would not be what he painted. That's kind of how shape recognition works. Shape recognition works the same way. It's kind of a fuzzy match, is what they call it. And that's why things like Google 10i, or you can go to Google, for example, and you can take some kind of an image and you can upload it to Images Google search, and they may not return the exact same image. So for example, I could do that with this creation of Adam thing. And what might actually return is it will return the creation of Adam every time, but it might return at one time with, say, some of the funny ones that you've seen before. It's not the exact same image, but you can see it's the same thing. It's just not the original. You may see God with shooting the finger or something to Adam or something like that. Same kind of thing, but you can tell it's the same image because it's fuzzy shape recognition. It's the same kind of thing. And that's what's being performed here. And none of the images are changed. Let's see if I can find another example here. Both of these right here are originals. This is the original geography and the original nebula. So that's an easy one. This is the same thing I just showed you. This is the original Nile Delta. This is the original trapezium. These white rectangles show where you should focus your eye as you move all the way down these images. And I've labeled them A, B, and C to show you that when you take a look up here, that rectangle that you looked at, now we've done the same thing that I showed you before. I cut out each one of those pieces with the exact same XY coordinates, and I allow your eye to move all the way through. So the originals have not changed at all. What's happened is the transparency has changed slightly. This transparency goes from 100% to 0%, and this transparency goes from 0% to 100%. But by doing that, you can see the shape that you see right here repeated all the way through. God, this mouse is just driving me crazy. So anyways, that's how I do this this kind of thing. And that's the analysis that I use. So when you hear people using the term Photoshop, now you'll understand that it's a very ambiguous term to use. It's not clear. And so as far as my stuff goes, I do not Photoshop or alter the images in order to make them fit and stuff like that. As I specifically shown you, all I do is adjust the transparency so that you can see the images come out each time. In each one of these, you can see the repeated instances. And the reason I do this is because I can see it without doing that. Some people cannot. Some people are just horrible when it comes to shape recognition. Some people can't even recognize their mother's face if they saw it in an image. So I do this in order to make it very easy for people to be able to see the repeated instances of these things. So anyways, I hope that helps. I'll be using this video to refer people to in the future if they have questions regarding this kind of information.